Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Before we start, I'd just like to say thank you as always for tuning in, and I really hope you've been enjoying my channel. If the answer is yes, please hit subscribe at the bottom of the screen there to stay up to date with all the weekly content. Last week's video was on how best to approach weight loss, whether it's a fast approach or a slow approach, okay, whichever suited you. Today we're going to talk about 3 different ways we can create a calorie deficit. Number 1 is tracking your calories with one of the calorie counting apps. Number 2, controlling your portions. And number 3, intermittent fasting. So let's start with tracking your calories using one of the many calorie counting apps. I know what you're thinking. I haven't got time to track my calories. Well, these apps are great because they make it really simple, quick for you to do. It might be a little time consuming at first, but once you get the grips with it, it will become easy. Now, the first thing that people ask me is what they think my calories should be. Now, that's a pretty tricky question, and I don't like to go into exactly what your calories should be using the various calculators that we have. And often these apps ask you a few questions and calculate the calories for you. In my opinion, what you should do, you should track your calories for a couple of days, see where you're generally at, because at the end of the day, we usually are creatures of habit and eat the same foods consistently, day by day, week by week. So you'll get a pretty good idea about what your typical calories are from Monday to Friday, and then I would separate Saturday and Sunday because we always usually go a bit higher on the weekends. Now from there, you can have a look at what they are, and then you can reduce the calories by 200 to 300 the next time you start to track. Once you get to grips with that, like I said, we're creatures of habit. What should happen is you'll fall into a new set of habits and you can stop tracking for a few days or even a few weeks, depending on your motivation. If you find that you are sticking to the changes that you've made, you don't necessarily need to continue to write the calories into the calorie counting app. What you can then start to use it for is if you start to lose motivation, if you feel like more calories are slipping into your diet, and then you can just put your calories back into the calorie tracking app just to kind of see where you are. And if they've shot back up a little bit, then that's the reason why progress has probably stopped. And then you can just start the process again. Monitoring your progress, guys, is really important as well. So there's no point doing this if you don't know if it's creating any results. So my advice to you is once you make the change, maybe weigh yourself, maybe do a circumference measurement on yourself wherever you're looking to lose weight, and see if in 2 weeks' time a change has occurred. If it has not occurred, then you may need to drop your calories a little bit further until it starts happening. Then you can repeat that process every 2 weeks. If the changes continue to happen, just stick where you are. If we can make changes to our body composition by making the smallest amount of change to your diet, then it's going to be much more likely that you adhere to what you've changed. So every 2 weeks, weigh yourself and don't change anything until the progress starts to slow down or stop. Now, if you find that your life's a bit more hectic and your meals aren't quite as consistent week by week, you might want to continue to track your calories throughout the process. However, if you do find that, hey, it's the same meals every single day, every single week, then you will get used to how much you're putting on your plate, how much that means in calories. You can stop putting it into the calorie counting apps and save yourself a bit of time, because that can, like I said a little earlier, be a bit time consuming and it's easy to lose motivation. So pick what's best for you, and that is one way of controlling your calories. Number 2, portion control. Now, everything is portion control when it comes to managing your calories. Okay, well, I know you're probably thinking the same thing. What I simply mean by that is you control your portions without tracking your calories. And the simplest way of doing that is taking a look at the food you have on your plate and just reducing the amount that you put on it. A few simple ways. You can get a plate smaller than you would usually have. You can spend a couple of days having a little think about how much you actually put. If you put 2 scoops of chili, or 3 scoops of chili, or bolognese, or whatever it is, put it down by 1 scoop. Okay, then you've made a change, and then you can use the same processes of weighing yourself every 2 weeks, measuring yourself every 2 weeks, seeing if you're making progress. Guys, I think you'll know if you're making progress, but it keeps you motivated if you start seeing figures and numbers. That's my advice. One side note on this is the snacks we eat day to day, guys. So with the calorie tracking app, you can put the snacks in as I said before. However, if you're not tracking your calories, it's really hard to know how many calories are in the snacks that you eat. And a lot of people go for nuts and seeds and stuff like that because they think it's healthier. It is healthier, but they're quite dense in calories. And you've also got to think about the sources that you use. And really simply, like I explained with the meals that you're doing day to day, you can reduce the amount of sauces that you use. You can reduce the amount of nuts and seeds that you eat, whether it's a chocolate bar. You can also pick a lower caloried version. So check out the back of the packet. It tells you the calories. It's so easy these days. You can pick a lower caloried version to the ones you've got. If you can make the smallest amount of changes and still get results, like I said, it's going to be much, much easier for you to adhere to the changes that you've made. Number 3, intermittent fasting. Now, there are a couple of things that people do here, and I'm just going to discuss 2 of them. There's more than 2, but I'm going to just discuss 2. The first one is the 8-hour window. This is where you get all your calories for the day in 8 hours. Okay, and that doesn't seem like a lot of time, but you can get quite a bit of food in there. So essentially what people do is they do it overnight. So they might have their last meal at 7 p.m. and they won't eat again until 11 or 12. Okay, so they have 16 hours where they don't eat, and they eat between the window of 8 hours, so between 11 and 7 o'clock. This is a really simple way of reducing your calories because you essentially take away a meal in the day, breakfast most of the time. So this will bring your calories down. What are the pitfalls of this though? Well, if you find that you are still overeating within that 8-hour window, whether you've skipped that meal or not, it doesn't really matter because your calories are too high over that 8-hour window. And I think sometimes people forget that and they skip the meal and they just eat as much as they can through the 8 hours. They look at the scales and they haven't lost any weight. So the same rules apply here, guys. If you're monitoring your weight or circumferences or however you're measuring your progress, if you find that it isn't changing, then you're still eating too much. Okay, so it can definitely work, and it does work for plenty of people. Just be mindful of that 8-hour gap. If you're eating too much within that 8 hours, it still counts as your calories. Your body doesn't lose weight because you skipped a meal. Your body starts to make a change because you have put yourself in a calorie deficit for a long enough period of time. Another form of fasting is the 5-2 diet. We've probably all heard of this. It became quite famous a few years ago. I'll explain it to you now. So you eat your normal amount of calories for 5 days, and then for 2 days you eat around 500 calories. Once again, over the course of 7 days, 14 days, a month, you should be in a calorie deficit. And it's quite easy to do. It works for people. Some people really like it and get on really well with it. However, as usual, as I said before, if you find that within those 5 days your calories exceed the normal amount, because in your mind you're thinking, oh, I've got those 2 days, so they'll drop my calories down. Oh, I can eat a bit more here, here, and here. And if your calories over the month are higher in those 5 days than they usually are, then you're basically making up for the fact that you've reduced your calories on 2 days. So you would either break even or even gain weight depending on the surplus of calories you put yourself in over the 5 days. So again, be mindful of that. You really still need to control everything. Be as normal as you can over the 5 days if you want to see a change. There are, of course, many other ways we can create a calorie deficit. We've all seen all the diets out there, and when followed, like the ones we've just discussed, will create a change and they will get you results, but you have to follow them consistently enough. Like I mentioned in the last video, you've got to figure out what the best approach is for yourself. Find the one that fits into your life more. The more likely you're going to adhere to it, the more likely you're going to get the results that you want, which in this instance is weight loss. Thank you all very much for watching. I really hope you're enjoying the videos. If you have any questions and comments, please hit me up in the comments section. I will answer everyone that comes in, and I'll see you next week.